Welcome all to Osquery Office Hours, November 10th. First up, announcements and highlights since the last meeting.
I put in a plug there for Fleet DM since I think that's a pretty interesting development. And we have Mike McNeil here, who is apparently heading up that new organization. So hello.
Hello. Glad to be here. Been really cool to get to know the Osquery community so far, and I hope to learn even more and get to know you guys over time. Thanks for welcoming me.
So,
welcome aboard.
Anything you're gonna let's say, what are any new directions or priorities for Fleet?
I mean, I think that I can speak to that, and I would say that, you know, immediately we're not pursuing new directions for Fleet. We mostly want to just keep making it the best way to manage Osquery agents to, you know, to achieve security, ops, IT, and whatever use cases that people are doing with Osquery. So I think it's already, you know, well used, and there's a laundry list of feature requests, and I think we have some more ideas on what we can do to, you know, keep making Fleet be like a really awesome way to use Osquery and to extract the value from it.
Yeah, so you started from scratch. I started from fresh, no issues in the repo, and that must feel good. I would be a hypocrite if I said, you know, I was looking forward to seeing a roadmap, since I know how difficult it is to get Osquery to create one as well. But still interested. So
I will toss out that Zach or Mike, I forget which of you, I'm sorry, did post a list of these are the things they might be working on in the Fleet channel a little while ago. So
oh, cool. I'll take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have lots of thoughts of things that we'd like to pursue. You know, this is kind of a new direction. Fleet was previously, for the last couple of years, just driven by mostly what I either felt like working on or what I could get someone to pay me to work on a consulting basis. And now we're kind of changing up the business model to open core. So nothing will be going away, but we want to add some kind of enterprisey features, and we want to add, and we want to just make Fleet better for more adoption. So there are lots of thoughts on what that would be, and I think a lot of, you know, a lot of what we see as the you know, reality of the next 6 months and year will be influenced by what sorts of potential customers we get in contact with and what their needs are.
Well, I'm sure you'll have a wish list. But one thing that we've heard from a couple of people recently is that they want to enumerate software and enumerate the update or vulnerability status of that software. And Osquery can solve some of that, but at some point it's going to be how you integrate Fleet with sources out and, you know, on security sources, threat intel feeds and things. So that would be a really cool thing if we could work maybe together to make something that's end-to-end to solve that problem.
Yeah, that would be great, Mike. I mean, we'd love to solve that use case. And overall, I mean, I think that as much as we can, we ought to make Osquery be sort of the agent that can do everything, and then let's build the supporting infrastructure to solve all of the different use cases that people want, with like that vulnerability management being totally a you know, a prime one. And Seth, is vulnerability management something that Collide is doing these days in the cloud product?
I don't feel like I can really speak to Collide's roadmap right now.
But that's not a current. Sorry, I'm not asking for roadmap. Just asking what the product looks like right now.
Sorry, I'm thinking about what I can say and not say.
Okay, no problem. No problem. But anyway, that's something that we would love to get to.
The Collide Glomar.
What is when you say vulnerability management in the Osquery context, that sort of reopens some long-running conversations we've had as a community here around Osquery, if you thought of your common endpoint EDR style things, right? Osquery's never really had a good R story, and people have always been very mixed on whether they want that. So I don't know if you're thinking about kind of how to come at that side, or if you've got other things in mind, or like where you're going with it.
Well, I mean, from what I've heard, it's just a detection and insight that they want. They want to know what needs updating, and they would solve that problem in another channel with another tool. But they want to know when somebody has a vulnerable software installed.
I will mention that I have done a little bit of work to take Osquery's like select star from apps or select star from programs and just match it against the CVE databases. It's not that hard, but it is a little bit grotty around the edges of it. So that isn't something that Collide is running in production, but that is something that, like if you wanted to bang that out, it's not that hard to integrate with the VolsDB project and that kind of stuff. So feel free to ping me if you want to chat Go libraries or whatnot.
Awesome. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I figured that there were probably some gaps on the endpoint side of what we currently enumerate. Some things are easier to enumerate than others. Things that are well packaged, installed in expected places are easy to enumerate. And a perfect solution probably isn't necessary. But there's something that I think needs a collaboration between the two teams. So something to think about. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we would love to address that. And Mike, if you have any other use cases like that, or if you'd like to schedule some time to chat with Mike and I. Wow, so many Mikes in Osquery land. If you'd like to schedule some time to talk about all sorts of use cases that we might pursue that might be nice for your customers as well, would love to do that.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm going to make a note there to come up with some of those and then find out a time to talk.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to see another open-ish vendor, so it'll be great. Maybe we can do more collaboration on some of the horrific CI things I'm not working very hard on, so that'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know how I can help with that. And obviously, right now we're a very small team. We don't have a ton of resources, but
why don't y'all shake out some things and we'll figure it out going forward.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other announcements from folks? Someone is editing my minutes and putting them in places I wouldn't have, but that's okay. Okay. Do we have any guests today that wish to bring up questions, problems, PRs? Anyone working through a deployment they want help with? Just eyeballing the room, I don't think so, but hang out a moment.
Alessandro had a example extensions PR.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that in the agenda. Alessandro doesn't need space carved out for him.
No. I think it's a small team here today.
Yeah. Okay, so in that case, no one's got anything they're really blocked on, no major bugs. So, okay, let's, I guess, just dump into agenda items. First thing is this sample extensions. Okay, is there anything for conversation here particularly? Or is this just sort of like asking for a review?
Yeah, so we have made a small change so that we no longer risk breaking the sample extensions. And actually, one thing it changed in the samples is we had this extension named complex example, which contain a couple of calls to change directly the Osquery database. And I was thinking whether we should write something about this. Some context. We had the PowerShell events table some time ago that was using the Windows event log events for the PowerShell blocks, saving system state inside the database. And this creates a couple of issues. First, that nobody is going to clean up this data. Second, there is no versioning for these fields. So usually when someone, either from a core table or from an extension, tries to write stuff, they never really think about what happens if later on they change this data and they read back things that are not really in the correct format anymore. And additionally, what happens is that they usually end up writing a lot of data without using neither batches, which I don't think they're exported through the registry, but I'm not sure, nor transactions that are not yet implemented. So this data will easily break if they save multiple keys, and it will also cause huge performance issues. So the reason I removed these calls to the set database values is because I wouldn't want to endorse people to write directly inside the database unless we find a good use case for this. I didn't touch the APIs. They are still there, so nothing breaks. I just removed them from the examples.
My gut sense is that we should remove the APIs and we could consider replacing them with something else. And one of the conversations we were having last week or the week before about extensions also was that there's a lot of complexity in the extensions, and it sounds like we believe this is a historic artifact about making it easy to move an extension from extensions into core to sort of minimize that code shift. And I'm wondering if this sort of writable database is in the same reason, because if I was going to design a sort of extension model from scratch, I definitely wouldn't want, I'm not convinced I would want the extensions to write into the central database. You know, we might want to present a data area for them to write or not. They can make their own. We might want to present a readable database to them. That seems reasonable. But I feel like having them reach in and write opens these cans of worms you mentioned for very little benefit. So I would generally be in favor of removing that from the API, just being like, no, you don't get write access to the database.
Yeah, I mean, I'll third that.
Is it easy to remove it from the API?
I'm not sure. I was working a new entry. Here it is. And this is actually a call for testers. We have this pretty big refactor of the eventing framework, which will remove the indexes from the RockCB database so that we have less writes in there. We do not have, again, we also have here troubles with database migrations that don't always take into account how things could change when changing the eventing framework. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is to keep things in memory. So whenever we generate new events from a publisher, we only save the data and we keep the index in memory. Whenever we close and restart Osquery, we scan just the data and rebuild it. So we no longer have all these keys. We had like 4 types of keys. for each event that cause Osquery to continuously read these indexes, update them to add new lists inside the buckets, and then save them again. And this was getting really performance intensive when a publisher was firing many events. So I will post some packages maybe in the core channel, and we are looking for testers. It should allow Osquery to work in a better way.
Yes, I remember that conversation, and I see this as an agenda item. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. I was still trying to figure out if we could have extensions. Can we drop the extensions right into the database? Like, how hard is that?
I'm not sure if currently it is correctly decoupled, I would say. I think that headers from the SDK bring in headers from the the database library, and so automatically all the functions from the database are public to the extension too, I think.
I'll make an issue for follow-up.
Yeah.
This maybe also just ties into, we talked about creating a smaller SDK that didn't have everything. So I'll just try and make sure we have some issue that captures those wants, and I'll link it into the minutes. I don't think we have to do anything about it today. No one's got a PR burning. So next thing was the refactor of the eventing framework. That sounds really awesome. I think between that and the work Teddy's been doing, probably are just RocksDB is getting better and better. So thank you, Alessandro. And someone noted that we might see macOS 11 today. The other rumor that we'll probably see is maybe an official announcement of the ARM Macs.
They did make an official announcement, talking about it now, but
Ah!
nothing about Big Sur yet, but I assume it probably will be somewhere today. The reason why I put this in here is just because I wanted to check and make sure that we were ready. I don't know how ready you can be for something that's not released yet, but did we have any things to do besides, I think, there's one remaining failing test that I had a PR open for, haven't finalized it. It's still a draft PR, I think. But other than that, I don't know if there's anything else that we needed to do.
I'll mention that we are running Osquery and Collide Launcher on a handful of Big Sur beta machines, and don't see any problems with it. We also don't exercise all the tables, so there can always be bugs lurking, but at a high level, everything seems to work.
Okay, that's encouraging. All right, so we won't be deluged with early adopters complaining about. All right.
Yeah, I think I have the same feedback. Like, I haven't tested every table, but most of the commonly touched tables work, and the daemon seems to work as it should. Doesn't crash. There's no huge memory spikes.
And they haven't officially deprecated BSM yet, so
we have one more year.
Yeah. Okay. Guess that's it for that talking point. We can move forward.
Actually, the same thing is true for the ARM64 stuff. I haven't made much progress on getting a build there, but it seems to run just fine. I haven't done extensive performance testing though, so passes a sniff test.
And I believe that Rosetta 2 would allow us to continue to ship an x86 version of Osquery for a while, right?
It's my understanding, yeah.
Is that the way that you've been running it, Seth?
I took the packages that Collide builds for other platforms and just installed them. So I did nothing
Does that mean it is using Rosetta 2 based on what people understand of that?
Yeah, it has to. There's no other.
Yeah.
There's no other way it could work.
And would we have to? Is it possible to build for Mac ARM64 on non-ARM64 machine?
Couldn't tell you.
I doubt that.
Okay. Thanks, y'all.
Systemd support.
Yeah, so this stuff was in the old pull request. We had a really old pull request that would implement the services table for Linux. It contains support for systemd, but it wasn't really suitable to be merged due to the requirements we had with the systemd libraries. So what we did, we had an awesome intern here at Share of Bits implementing the two functionalities using the dbus client library. So we finally have those new tables that deprecate the old pull request that allows you to list not only the services registered with the systemd init, but also all the systemd units in the system.
So my recollection from that was summer of code work from Rebecca, right?
Rebecca? No, it was
Yes.
Rachel.
Rachel.
Excuse me, I remembered the R, but not the rest of it. So this is the dependency work's now been shaken out on that, and these are just up for review.
Yes. So we have removed the old dependencies, and we now have ported back the libexpat library and also the libdbus. And we, of course, have regenerated the configuration files using Ubuntu 14.
Okay. I guess I'll try and look at them, or maybe Teddy's probably the other good one on that.
And this is another really old pull request that it originally ported the extended attributes to Linux and FreeBSD. And FreeBSD is no longer supported, sadly, but we at least have this for Linux now. In addition to this, it will also import libcap, so that if you happen to have capabilities set on a binary, the table will recognize it and decode it, so you can read it in human readable format.
If you have capability set on something on disk,
yeah,
it'll display that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I feel like I was just patching that on the Darwin side recently. So great. Okay. That's everything on our agenda. I've been really scarce this month. I'm sorry. I've got a looming deadline in early December, so I've been a little bit buried. Sorry for my quietness.
Oh, I have new pull requests, but they're not old enough to be talked about.
So before we do that, anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up? Anyone want to talk about anything? Guess I got a couple of little updates, maybe. So in the ongoing, slowly pushing the ball forward on code signing things, I haven't looped back with Charvel on debugging things, but I believe Charvel can compile things with whatchamacallit support, endpoint security support. And my machines don't like them, and I don't know why, but whatever. And we were talking about how to get it into CI, and Stefano did a little experiments, and it looks like CI does have a consistent UUID. So we can actually just create a profile for the CI machines.
But I forgot, now you remind me, I forgot to add it to the Osquery CI actually to check if, because yeah, it seems so, but I'm not sure if it is something, I don't know, maybe the host giving the VM is the same for luck, but yeah, maybe sometimes it changes, and I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I would still have to add some make a PR to add that so that it prints that information, and we can check it on a longer period.
Mm-hmm. Well, seems pretty reasonable just to make a profile for CI and figure out how to get it credentials and just kind of let it go nuts. To the extent that we trust Apple's account restrictions, then CI would have a pretty limited blast radius for what it can impact. I think that's everything I've got on agenda here. So I'm inclined to try and hang out a little bit because it sounded like Teddy might drop in. So I don't know. Anyone got any PRs or issues they want to chat about?
I've a small pull request 6663, which is nothing special, but it sucks that if you we have the file integrity monitoring in Osquery, and both the file events table and the process file events table, which uses audit, they both enable automatically as soon as the required configurations are in place. So if you were to specify a monitored file with the right flags, they will start. They both start, and there is no way for you to decide to either use one or the other. So essentially, if you try to use the process file events table, you will also enable the file events table by mistake. And I have this pull request that should address this, but I haven't fixed this for macOS yet.
I feel like this maybe bumps into some of the other things we've talked a little bit about, changing all the event stuff to sort of be where you individually enable publishers or something.
Yeah, and I guess we started with the big Windows refactor. These tables also had this kind of issue where they would just fire up automatically as soon as disable events was set to false. And we still have a couple of tables that are doing this, but we are slowly addressing them all.
I'm in favor of splitting up the flags so that they each have to get sort of enabled individually. So if this is just kind of work in that line, I'm good with it.
Yeah, but we are ending with, at some point, I'm going to ask you, Seth, how do we handle all this flag explosion? Hello, Teddy.
Hello.
We were waiting for you, Teddy. It's nice to see you.
Nice, thank you. Well, I'm here, so sorry to interrupt.
No, we finished all of the things we had on our specific agenda, so now we're kind of just chatting about other PRs and things and hoping to wait long enough to say hi to you.
Oh, cool. I'm flattered. Hey, congrats on the Fleet DM. I haven't had a chance to deep dive into it a lot, but the site looks really good.
Thanks, Ted. Yeah, we're excited to be pushing forward the state of the whole Osquery world as much as we can.
I'm going to try to bring up the docs. Yeah, full disclosure, I've been like really out of the game for the last couple of weeks. So the meeting notes I need to catch up on, all the pull requests I need to catch up on, the issues I need to catch up on. Is there anything that you want to direct my attention to?
I guess the PRs in our notes here.
I will be posting some test packages for the eventing framework factor. That's the only thing I would like for you to see when you have time.
Okay. Are there any like critical problems or bugs in the last release that we've been working through? Is there any new release that has bug fixes in it upcoming that we know of? Or is it kind of business as usual?
Business as usual, as far as I know.
It's been pretty good, but we are taking a look at our extensions again, and we've seen Windows extensions behaving a little strangely with the thrift, so we're looking into that bug.
Mike, what kind of issues are you seeing there? Because I've seen issues with Windows extensions using the Go SDK having trouble with connections, essentially.
Yeah, I think it might be a regression. We don't know. I think one of us wanted to go back and test with 4.3 or something. But the latest OS query, Windows only, extensions seem to have a connection failure and a reestablishment in a loop. And that causes some intermittent problems. So you don't see it unless you're running verbose output. And even then, if your query is returned during the time frame where it's working, then you're not affected. But if you lose that race condition, then you might see a problem. And so some people have reported a problem, and I don't know. All I've done so far is confirm it. I don't know what the cause is. We thought maybe it had to do with the keep alive, and the messages that we're seeing might be unrelated. There was a fix that had recently suppressed a warning from Thrift about ping. I don't know if someone remembers that. There's a PR that like suppressed a warning on the Thrift connection that was, I guess, unimportant, but we didn't do that on the client side of the connection possibly, and maybe that's why we're seeing that output. So I don't even know if those messages are related to the problem, but it does seem like
this.
Yeah.
Windows, yeah. And so I started the Osquery shell and then extension, and I can see the messages printed on both the server and the client. And you may remember this, it's the usual tpipe class error about the get overlapped result. And yeah, Mike is right, it does get disconnected. So the tables will not work while this issue happens. And in my system, I can barely use the shell. There are so many messages like that printed that I cannot even see my queries. So yeah, I wanted to confirm whether it was printed just on the client, as we originally thought, but that's not the case. And next, I will try with another version of Osquery.
Seth, you're muted.
Thank you. What are you using as the socket?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What's the socket location?
By default, I think it is / ./osquery.em, I think.
Okay, so I've noticed a couple of things over in Collide Land, and I don't know if they're related or not. We haven't seen that error come up, but we have seen there's a lot of weird timeouts, but they all appear to be like initial bootstrapping, where Osquery just doesn't come up as fast as the extensions do. So the Osquery Go library basically has some back-off sleeps in the beginning of it. The other thing I've seen, which also doesn't quite feel related, is in Windows, sockets are all these named pipes that live in like a special magic file system. And I've seen sometimes a pipe kind of just hang and get locked up. And then what you'll see is the Collide launcher can't start a new OS query because it basically just says, hey, my socket's busy. So I've recently changed the Collide stuff over to just using a random named pipe bound every startup. I don't know that it doesn't sound the same as the overlapped stuff, but there's some weird stuff in there.
I'll raise. There is also a third bug. I've posted an image in the Office Hours channel At some point, this happens, and the output is all mangled. Like, I have no idea what is happening there.
You're referring to the interleaved output there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't explain that, but that does look similar to the issues that I had been encountering.
And when you encounter it, Zach, is it in the terminal or are you seeing it in the logs?
Those would be in the logs from an Osquery D process. Yeah.
Are you seeing the kind of garbage things that Alessandro pasted, or the other ones we've talked about?
Yes, similar things. Wow, actually, really sorry, folks. I have to pick up an urgent phone call.
I guess we don't know then. Because one of the things I'm wondering is if the garbage that Alessandro just posted is like a weird intermingling of code points. Like if one thing is spewing UTF-8 and one thing spewing ASCII to the terminal, is PowerShell just going to get a little confused by that or something? I don't know for sure.
I'm going to have to try and test this again. I don't remember if in this screenshot I was trying to run the extension automatically through Osquery, which may have caused both processes to inherit the same output, or not. So I'll try to reproduce it, I guess, see what happens.
I feel like the get overlap results feels like like an important one, but it might just be because it has an error, so it somehow looks more real.
That message actually is, again, the same we were getting on the Osquery side due to the fact that Osquery pings the extension once in a while, actually, well, pretty often. And the problem is that the connection gets created and closed a bit unceremoniously. So the get overlapped results error comes out, but it's technically innocuous. The fact that we are seeing it now is because previous to Osquery 4x, Thrift was, well, kind of, but anyway, Thrift was compiled with those kind of messages disabled, hidden. And we have a PR where we merged the PR to set, to give it, so basically Thrift gives you the possibility of configuring a function to handle that output and do what you want with it. And currently we are ignoring it. And I think we have to do the same thing on the extension side first, or so it's not necessarily. I think it's the extension side that gives the same error due to those ping that Osquery does. Yeah.
Do you think this represents some other problem we have with the socket? Like, is there a way for us to keep the socket more available? I don't know this bit of Windows.
I mean, I think it depends on Thrift. I haven't looked at the protocol. I think the ping is really, I'm not sure, but I don't think there is any ping packet really. So the ping is really just connecting each time and to see if the extension is still there and if it is able to handle connections. Maybe we can think about having it close without throwing that error. But yeah, I think some other people saw issues with the extension re-registering. That's a different issue, probably, most likely.
Do you happen to know which version of Thrift we are using, and when was the last time we regenerated the bindings?
So it's the 11, 011 or 11 something. Not the very latest, which is 12. The last time, I don't think we
I mean,
have.
is it for trying to regenerate them and maybe use a recent version?
I mean, we can try and see if something changes. Yeah, I don't recall on top of my mind. I think I somewhat recall that maybe previously we had actually the version 10, so we might have updated it.
Yeah, maybe it's unrelated, but it's also possible that we bring in more fixes.
So, well, unrelated to Thrift, but related to extension in general, there is also a fifth or whatever number this was bug. Apparently, there are some race condition, and in this specific case, it manifests itself with a deadlock. That this is another user that found it when registering two extensions at the same time. Osquery ends up in a deadlock, and apparently he was testing it on Windows 2. The issue is 6744. He opened also a PR. I just briefly had a look at it, not too deeply. I'm not just saying I'm not convinced with the fix because it is basically removing locks in a path where sometimes those locks might be required, so probably needs some refactoring. But yeah, there's also this issue recently.
I think that I'm also looking at the 6745, the fix to the race condition. I think we could focus some effort on this to see if we can at least verify that the removal of locks, which I think the approach is okay here. You rename a function so that you have a little bit of assurance that anytime the unsafe function is called, you either broke something with the change or you found all the call sites, and you could verify that there's locking in the calling function rather than the function that uses the critical section. However, just looking at this code, it's not very good code. I can say that because I wrote most of it. It's pretty horrible code. The locking needs to change, and right now it has one mutex for all accesses of private data. It should be refactored a bit so that there's a mutex per per private data. But I was trying to run through my head of how you would do that refactor right now, and it also is a little complex because there's quite a bit of the logic that accesses several things at once. So this is going to be challenging.
Yeah, what I noticed. Oh yeah,
I was wondering. I mean, one way to do that maybe is to have one sort of helper function that takes all the mutexes, convert everything to take all the mutexes, and then carve them out one at a time. Well, I mean, it lets you say the thing that needs to access 3 of them, right, or whatever, can just stay there until you pick them out one at a time and then ditch the helper function.
What I noticed on that PR, well, that's I'm not sure if that will give you the correct result, really. I don't know, but what I noticed is, as Teddy was saying, the idea of separating those functions in unsafe, without locks, etc., is good. But I think that where he removed the lock and so-called the unsafe function is a path, and previously it had locks there. So I think it's a path that needs protection. But there's also another thing, which is, it seems like we are in some cases we are protecting only specific fields, and we are not thinking about the higher level operation that needs to be done, that has to be like transaction has to be atomic. So we are protecting only we have two fine-grained protections where things can happen in between, and we are not checking things that may change between those locks. And so yeah, that's also part of the problem.
I don't see where a lock was removed, where the higher level calling function doesn't acquire a lock itself.
Maybe I lost a place where he actually added one, because where I need to look at it, because what I saw is that there was a function where he removed some locks to avoid the deadlock, but
Right.
yeah, without adding them somewhere else means obviously that that's in some cases you are missing them. But
Yeah, do you mind double checking that? Because
yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Oh, actually, I have a question. I'm looking through our issues, and I filed one. And maybe it's expected. I don't know. Extensions don't seem to get constraints that aren't equals equals. So like if you say select star from extension table where foo is greater than or equal to 5, that foo does not appear to go through.
What's the issue?
Issue number? Issue number 6734.
It doesn't sound intended to me.
I was trying to just add enough debugging that I could trace it. I'm pretty sure it just isn't passing through. Like I couldn't see it in the printfs anywhere. But I wasn't sure if this was like a intentional choice on the part of SQLite or Osquery about like just letting SQLite handle things like greater than or what. I don't know. I thought it was an unusual one.
So I was looking at the writable tables from extensions, and I've ended up using the samples we have to try and insert and query some of the data in there. And it seemed like I could easily use the greater than or less than, and which means that I am now wondering whether there is something wrong in the extension system that relies on something that only works from C++. Because in here it seems to work fine, but between your issue and the other issue about the registry calls on the Osquery Go pull request, it seems like there's something wrong in there that we have to test and check. Luckily, there is someone, Gilbert, that provided an extension that we can use and the lowest comment to try and reproduce this. So I will take a look at this and see if I can figure out something.
Seth, when you were doing your debug prints, was that within the Go program or within Osquery itself?
I tried to get them into both, and I got pretty turned around inside Osquery. That's a corner I have trouble with. But I tested it from Python and from from Go as close to the raw extension reader as I can. So I'm not convinced it's coming across Thrift, or that the Thrift I don't know what the Thrift generated output may not be correct or something, but I'm confident it's not the Osquery Go SDK.
Because you're seeing the same thing in Python. That's what makes you confident of that. I see. I suppose it's also possible. I mean, when we wrote Osquery Go, it was kind of just like a Go port of the Python code. So it seems possible that there's a bug in the Python or an unimplemented feature in the Python that we just didn't implement in Go either.
I basically stuck a dump down in the thing that unmarshals off of Thrift. So
Okay, fair enough.
It could be in the Python code, but more likely it would be in the Thrift definitions or in the C++ side.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I wrote that code, so I don't really remember, but I'll check it out, see if I can figure out something. And the example with Osquery Go is going to help out quite a lot.
Did you say there's something in the Osquery Go repository that I should be looking at?
No, there's, or rather, yes, there's this Gilbert who made a pull request, apparently, that contains the changes to implement the writable tables support in the Osquery Go. And
I'm looking for this PR. What repo is it in?
oh, I've linked the comment in the chat here.
Thank you. I remember when this came up on okay, it's not a PR, it's just a diff. Wonderful.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm almost sure there's something wrong in the C++ side if it doesn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when that was coming up. Somewhat relatedly, sorry to maybe shift us a little bit. Some time ago, we talked about bringing Osquery Go into the Foundation purview. I don't know if this is familiar with people. And my recollection is that there is broad support for that. Clyde is on board with that as well. There is one wrinkle for us, however. And the wrinkle is that Osquery Go is not licensed such that we can just pull it in to the Foundation as a no-op. But we can do this if all of the TSC unanimously approves it, or we have an official TSC meeting where the majority approves it. So I don't know if this counts as an official meeting. What do we think? Is this an official meeting that we can vote to accept it under its current licensing terms?
Yes.
I think that's actually true. I remember. Well, I'm just going on recollection here of reading the charter that official meetings can be regularly scheduled, discussions. Right.
I see 5 TSC members here. No, 4 TSC members here, and that is majority, I believe. Correct. So
correct.
I'm in favor. Teddy?
Can I ask, so what are the 2 options here? One is the organization that currently owns the repo can choose to relicense it.
Well, that's going to be a long, arduous process because we have to contact all committers. So that
I see.
So Collide's preference, and I think Osquery's preference, is probably transfer the repo with the license as is, and then handle the relicensing on the Osquery side.
And the license is MIT?
It's like MIT or Apache or something. It's not dual licensed, which is what we use on yeah, it's the MIT license.
Yeah.
Whereas everything in the Foundation is dual. What is it? Dual Apache and MIT or something.
So is then the 2 options, the owners of the repo right now do the heavy lifting to contact each person and relicense, or you delegate that heavy lifting to the Osquery, a Linux Foundation project?
I think our two options are a little bit different. So realistically, I am the one that will be doing that lifting, likely with some help from I don't know who yet. But I do have the list of committers that are not covered by the Collide agreements.
Okay.
And there's not that many of them. The two options are really just, yes, I know, Mike, there's only like 4 of them who weren't Collide employees at the time. The two options are really that either we pull it into Osquery, into Foundation, and then kind of we don't care if Collide changes its mind or gets busy or whatever. Or 2, we leave it in Collide until its license is exactly what we want, and then we pull it in. But my preference is to get it into the Foundation because that's where sort of this group of people have the most control over it.
I think that makes sense. I would like to go on record with a contingency that, like, if the work doesn't get done to relicense it, then we might have to like change the README to say like, hey, we have this work to be done. It hasn't been done, and until then, this repo is kind of like in limbo and frozen. I want to avoid the case where we sign ourselves up for a lot of work, but it sounds like that's not the case.
Well, a slightly different question though is like, is it a problem if it stays as an MIT license?
That was going to be my point.
Yeah. Does it affect our CLA tooling?
Yeah, I was about to ask. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, we can just, it's like a fork, right? We shouldn't have any.
I was just going to move the repo.
Yeah.
I was not going to fork it. I was just going to transfer the repository.
So I have to run, but I'm in favor of transferring the repository, and then we'll discuss if we want to relicense at a later point in time.
Okay, Teddy is in favor. Zach?
In favor.
Alessandro?
Yes, in favor.
Wonderful. That's majority. Thank you.
Okay. And you know how to move it, right?
Thank you, guys.
You're going to move it, right?
I will just move the whole thing.
Okay, cool. Thanks. See ya.
Thank you, Teddy. Bye.
Bye, Teddy.
Bye-bye. See you, everyone.
Good to meet you.
Steph, thank you for driving that. If you need any help reaching out to those 4 folks, I'm happy to help with that. I mean, I think we could probably just try to find their emails or see if they're on Osquery Slack, right?
We can follow it up in this ticket or something. We have contact info for them from GitHub.
Great.
Oh, Zach, one last question. Your super awesome Osquery in a box, is that updated to use FlateDM?
Oh, not yet, but probably ought to do that.
Nice.
We'll knock it out.
Cool. Any other agenda items?
I think that's probably it, and we are now at 2 p.m., so I think we should call it. Thank you all.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.